Hey guys, welcome to my channel. We're traveling from San Francisco to South Korea today, and I'm traveling business class, and I paid $130 for my flight. That's it. So, if you're interested in how I've done that, please continue watching.
Let's go.
Upstairs, please. Let me tell you how I got into business class for $130. The trick is collecting miles. When we just came to the United States back in 2015, we started a bank account for a company LinguaTrip in Silicon Valley Bank because they were the only bank who would allow us to start a business account without having a social security number. But I became a resident in 2017, so I was ready to explore other options. The issue with Silicon Valley Bank was that their international wires were really expensive, like $28 a wire, and there was also an intermediary fee of around $20, so transferring money to our partners was really expensive. And another thing, they only had debit cards. I couldn't collect miles. So I started exploring the options. I looked at Chase, Citibank, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo had an issue that it didn't do any international wires, only domestic, and I decided to move on with Chase. The key thing here is that for every dollar spent, even for like business expenses, they give you a mile. And for every dollar spent on Google ads and Facebook ads, they give you triple miles. And you business owners would understand me, like a huge part of our expenses is on ads. So we started collecting miles really quickly, and in addition they give you like travel insurance on everything you buy. So I decided to get a personal card as well, and every time you sign up for a new card they give you like extra 50,000 or 100,000 miles. The coolest thing is that you also get $300 travel credits. So when I booked a rental car, they just returned me $300. That's when you sign up. There's so much space here.
비행 중 여러분의 안전을 담당하는 안전요원은 승무원의 지시에 협조해 주시기
Lunch is gonna be served in maybe 10 minutes. I've ordered some Korean food. Super excited. We've got tuna and caviar and
amazing.
Meanwhile, I'm working on my new post for Instagram. I just made this photo in the airport. Look how great it is. Just love the colors, and then the airplane matches my shirt. I'm writing a post about my travel habits, how I like to get new things when I travel, so that later they remind me of the country. And for Korea, I'm planning to get a belt. A beautiful belt that will remind me of the place that I visited. Time to work. I'm actually going to Korea to film for a Korean TV show. They asked me to write down answers to some questions so they can also prepare. Super excited. And I'm also recording a new book. It's going to come out in Russian. I just signed an agreement with a publishing house. A lot of new cool things that require a lot of work. So probably going to work and then watch Billions, another must-see TV show. Artificial night for us. It's actually light outside, but because we're flying 12 hours, they want us to sleep. So, good night, my dear friends.
That flies in the night.
Good morning. This is my midnight snack. Slept for 3 hours. Watched the TV show, read a book, and it's 20 minutes till breakfast. But I'm like, oh, I missed the ramen part, so I'm trying it for you. Really good, like the $1 ramen that you can get everywhere. Really good. The breakfast has started. I'm watching a video about differences between South and North Korea. This is so fascinating how different the two countries can be, and we're just 1 hour away from arriving. The flight is over. It lasted for 12 hours, but felt like 2. And the most exciting thing about this seat is that it has so much space. It didn't even feel like flying. Sleepy, a little jet lag, but not too bad. Bye-bye, thank you. Bye-bye. Hey. Welcome to South Korea. A blogger has arrived in South Korea. The border was really fast. 1 minute, visa free for Russian citizens. Finally, they're here. Arrived in Seoul, getting our dinner, and then off to sleep. We're finishing this day by trying the best bubble tea on planet Earth in Korea. This is strawberry milk, the best flavor ever.
Forever, forever, ever, forever, ever.
I hope you guys enjoyed watching this vlog. I hope it was useful. So if you're running a company in the United States and you want to start a Chase account, you can DM me on Instagram and I will connect you with my banker. And if you're a person without a company and want a Chase card, the link is below. But you might not get approved, or you might get approved, depends. I hope this video was useful for you guys and you will start collecting miles and flying business class. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next vlogs from Korea, so don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Bye. Right now, about 30 million solopreneurs are shaping the US economy, driving 1.7 trillion in growth powered by AI tools, skills, and speed, and outpacing GDP growth at 5% peaks. Technology and AI are no longer an advantage They're the baseline, and they are giving you an opportunity to start a solo business. One focused person can now do the work of an entire startup team if they know which skill to master next. I want one of you who is watching this video to have a similar story. I run a podcast called Silicon Valley Girl, where I asked 5-figure founders, if you lost everything tomorrow, your money, your network, your reputation, and had to rebuild from zero in 2026, what would you actually do? I structured their answers into 5 clear strategies. If you watch this video till the very end, you'll know how to grow as a solopreneur in 2026. You'll learn which skills matter the most and how the smartest founders are using AI to win while everyone else is still playing catch up. What's fascinating is how different these approaches are, yet how practical each one is for someone starting today. And at the end of this video, I'll share my own plan, how I'd build everything from scratch right now, what I'd focus on first, and why. So make sure you watch until the end. Find the one thing you're best at in the world, then ignore everything else. But here's the problem. Most people don't actually know what their superpower is. Samir Vasavada, co-founder and CEO of Vice, gave me a simple framework for discovering it.
What your superpower is. What's your area of competency? Where do you spike? What's the thing that you are best in the world at? Ask your friends. Ask the people closest to you, why are you friends with me? Why do you like to work with me? What makes me great? And those people are all going to coalesce on one thing. You're a great communicator. You're a great salesperson. You're great at thinking about complex product problems. And you'll find the one thing that makes you great and become the best in the world at that thing. Forget about your weaknesses. It's really hard to compensate for your weaknesses. If you're really lucky, you can get a little better on your weaknesses, but on your strength, you can get significantly better. Because I think that too many people jump from thing to thing to thing. And the reality is all of the alpha comes on sticking at one thing for a long period of time and reaping all of the compounded rewards, because careers compound no different than capital does.
Now, once you've identified your superpower, the next question becomes, how do you test it in the market? I asked Yan Zhao, CEO and founder of Opus Clip.
If I have to start a company again, the first thing is always to figure out what is a real painful job to be done. I'm the prototype of founder who don't start everything from technology, but from users, from the market. I have to segment my market to a very clear, very vertical niche that I can clearly understand their existing workflow, their existing pain point, their existing alternative solutions. And then, so I think probably I would have to spend, the first couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, understanding the real use case, the very specific ICP. And the second thing is to just engineer a prototype or proof of concept. I can do that very easily with all the vibe coding tools right now. Right?
What's your favorite?
Well, I'm a heavy Cursor user, but I tried many other different tools, but Cursor is my go-to
Nice.
tool. Yeah, because I came from engineering background, so it's more familiar with the IDE. The step 2 is actually just a couple of days should be good enough to have a proof of concept, and then I go back to share that with the early users, the ICPs, to get their feedback. The feedback should not only about do you like the product, but also what kind of problems am I solving for you, and what is the value you perceive, which means how much money you are willing to pay for it. Right. So that process probably is the majority of the early 30 days. But I think on the other side, I also need to think it through about what kind of proprietary data can I possess along the way, and will that data set grow as the product grow, as the user grow, right? We don't have to build toward a moat or a very clear plan of defensibility, but I think we need to have that idea at least well thought in the first early days. Because you can't avoid it, right?
Yeah.
When you really launch the product. So it's better to have something in mind, have some idea in mind.
Billion-dollar founder of Perplexity, Arvind Srinivas, told me, the only bet you can make is on your own obsession, not on market timing, not on competitors. In the AI era, where everyone can big fast and big players can copy what works in days.
So I would just say the bet you can make is do what you truly are obsessed about, because fundamentally it's a bet on yourself. It's not a bet on the market. It's not a bet on ecosystem, like what competitors will do, will not do. Like, don't try to be this whiteboard strategy master. Like, it's completely pointless. Like, when your idea works and gets like 100 million or like billion in revenue, always expect the existing people to go after it, because everyone's looking for that incremental revenue in AI because the capex is so high. So the only way to justify all this is to actually turn that into like business profits. And so they'll go after you. So the only thing you can bet on is whether you're so obsessed about a topic that you will do it anyway, regardless of all the odds stacked against you. And then you'll prove the world wrong because you go so far deep into that, and no one cared about the problem more than you did. Like, commit yourself to one thing and do it for a sustained period of time, because it's very hard to be good at something if you just do it for like a couple of months. You need a year or two to actually get really good, like top notch at something. It could be programming, it could be math, it could be AI, it could be like writing apps, doesn't matter. It takes time to actually be really, really good. So I would suggest them to like go deep into something. It could be undergrad education, it could be like finding a software job at one of the existing companies. You could start off as an intern if they don't hire you full time, and then convert and like pour in the hours.
Before we continue, let's talk about something critical for any business. Your domain name, which is basically your branding. When you're starting a business, it all comes down to two things: customers and sales. To land both, your website has to look credible at first sight. Because when customers see this, with random numbers and hyphens, they think, ooh, spam. And I get it, most .com domains are already taken. That's the reality when you're starting out. That's why smart businesses are choosing .online domains. Clean, professional, and it actually tells people what you are. You are online. Right now, over 3.5 million .online domains have been registered worldwide by small businesses like yours and by notable brands like True Performance Gear for elite athletes and Minesweeper. The classic game millions still play online. But here's the real advantage. The word online is searched over 500 million times every month. That means .online domains can actually rank higher in search results, give you more visibility and more clicks. You can get your .online domain at any of the popular domain providers and website builders like GoDaddy, Namecheap, Wix, Lovable, and the likes. Right now, you can claim your .online domain for just 99 cents for the first year with my limited period offer. Head to www.get.online/Marina6 or use the link to grab yours today. All right, domain sorted. Now let's continue building our business. Ervin's point is simple but ruthless. Depth beats everything. But getting there isn't easy. If you're worried about failing or still finding your footing, the next part is for you. Award-winning serial entrepreneur Daniel Priestley and I discussed how to reduce risk while still moving quickly. Let's wrap up with advice for an ambitious 20-year-old who's watching this, really wants to start a business, really wants to thrive in the new AI age, but just doesn't know where to start. Like, there are so many opportunities. I'm a generalist. What do they do?
I really, really want them to do 6 months working for an experienced entrepreneur. I really want them to join a team. Before you become an instructor, become a student. Before you're a number one, be someone's number two. When I did 2 years working for this mentor of mine, I just picked up so much. And then I left at 21. I started my first company when I was 21. We did 1.3 million in the first 12 months. We did 11 million in year 3. But there's no way I could have gotten off to a fast start if I hadn't have done 2 years under the wing of an experienced entrepreneur. So, like, whatever your passion is, let's say it's a passion for AI, if you're listening to something like this, then go bring that passion to an experienced entrepreneur. And the value exchange is that you're bringing a passion for AI. They're bringing 20, 30 years worth of experience running businesses. So see if you can be a direct report to an entrepreneur first for 1 to 2 years. The 3 things that you want out of that apprenticeship: self-awareness, where you start to discover your strengths and weaknesses; commercial awareness, where you understand how you actually take a business to market and make profit from it and sell it for a lot of money; and access to new resources that you don't currently have: access to funding, access to fame, access to talent, access to set up strategies. So you want access to resources, you want commercial awareness and self-awareness. And if you can get those three things out of an apprenticeship, you're going to be so much better off when you actually go start your own thing and be a number one. But before you're a number one, be a number two. So I recommend what I call a 776 apprenticeship. So a 776 apprenticeship is that you find a business that does 7 figures of revenue, but has 6 figures of profit, and you get to spend at least 6 months shoulder to shoulder with the founder of that business. So you're having direct report relationship with the founder. Now, the reason is that if you're really early stage, especially if you work in corporate, you work for a company that does 7 billion of revenue, right? Like forget about like 7 figures of revenue. You know, you have no idea.
Yeah, you can work with the founder.
And you can't work with the founder, and you're like in a completely like made up bubble. You've got a big brand and you've got a database and you've got like all these assets and all this stuff that you work with. Like you're in la la land as far as like you have no idea what startup is going to feel like. So if you can go and work with someone who's just that 1 or 2 steps ahead and they've already achieved 7 figures of revenue, 6 figures of profit, and you can do 6 months working direct report for the entrepreneur, if you can clock that up, you're going to then have an experience of what entrepreneurship feels like.
Before you lead, Daniel says, learn from those a few steps ahead. That apprenticeship gives you real-world experience. As Amjad Masad, founder of Replit, a vibe coding tool, reminds us, what separates future founders from everyone else isn't mentorship alone. It's grift, resourcefulness, and domain knowledge that only comes from doing. It is how you create products AI can't easily replicate.
And I think grit is very important. So resourcefulness, grit, like not quitting after 6 hours, like spending another day or 2 on it at least. I think domain knowledge is very important. So if you have excellent domain knowledge on YouTube, and so you need to give that domain knowledge into the agent. You need to prompt it in a certain way so that you're downloading your domain knowledge, and that is your competitive advantage.
But at the same time, OpenAI models are training on what I know, and then they're so much better at defining what a good YouTube video is.
I think you still have tacit knowledge that is not necessarily expressed in all your videos and all the content out there. That CFO at the VC firm has a lot of knowledge and skills he built up over the years that he can make into an app that you can't find on blogs and you can't find online. And so I think every one of us, as we go through life, we build up a lot of experiences that LLMs do not get to experience because they're not embodied.
And finally, here's my own plan for starting from scratch in 2026. First of all, pick a sharp, focused niche. It's very hard to compete with big companies. Don't waste time chasing some generic big idea, building the next social network if it's your first business. Instead, look for founder opportunity fit. Take inventory of your origin story. Maybe you're an immigrant. Maybe you had some wins in the past. Think about your mission, when you've created the most value, and your vision, what you want to make happen. Please do not forget to build a simple AI-powered content system. Content is everything. Yes, the market is getting flooded, but it is also growing like crazy. I just see it in my own business. We're launching several new social media platforms. We're still working on them. And we're just fascinated how fast they're growing in terms of subscribers and revenue. Then run a 30-day launch sprint. Treat it like real business, not a hobby. Get very clear on what your KPI is. In these 30 days, maybe you want a client, maybe you want some type of revenue. Create a KPI for yourself. Don't just move by intuition. Have some kind of metric that you're striving for. It's gonna really structure your decision-making and learn how to focus, how to say no. You only have a few hours a week that you can commit to building something, depending on your situation. So even 15 minutes really counts. Stop doom scrolling. Take control of your own time. If this resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe. And let's get this message to everyone who needs to hear it right now. Do not forget to subscribe to my email newsletter. The link will be down below. I share all the things that are working for me and my team. And thanks for watching. And don't be afraid to start in 2026, because this is definitely the best time to build.
The thing to do right now is to run as fast as you can.
This is Bill Gurley, the legend who backed Uber and Zillow, who's lived through every major tech cycle for over 25 years, and he says this one is different.
There is so much disruption coming from this new technology that if you don't take control of your own career path, you're likely at risk. We did a survey where we asked people if you could go back in time and start your career over again, would you do something different? And 6 out of 10 said yes.
Before AI, the wrong career choice cost you years. With AI, the cost becomes colossal. We have this window opportunity that's closing, so we should be working really, really hard right now to grasp this opportunity. How much time do we have?
I would warn all of your listeners that...
Bill, welcome to Silicon Valley Girl.
Thanks for having me on. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. I had a question planned, but there's news that just came out.
Oh, no.
Block, the parent company,
Yeah, I saw that.
Jack Dorsey, is laying off nearly half of its staff in deliberate and bold embrace of AI.
Yeah.
Should people be scared?
Well, I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to qualify it a little bit. And the AI tools are out there. They've been out there for 2 or 3 years now. They're not going to be put back in the box. They're not going to go away. My advice, which is very straightforward for anyone in any field, to protect yourself against AI, be the most AI-enabled version of yourself possible.
Okay.
And know what it's possible of in your field. Know the edge of what it's possible of in your field. Use it as much as you possibly can, because one thing I've learned just in my own endeavors, the types of prompts that you think of giving it increase the more you use it. Like you start to understand what it's capable of. And so any lack of leaning into it means you're getting further behind against people that are. It's new in that it's hitting white collar workers, which I think people had viewed those jobs as safe. Which may have been a mistake. And look, if you've been replaced, I would really, and this gets into this new book I'm releasing, I would ask yourself, is that the role you really loved and wanted to be in? And if not, maybe this is an opportunity for you to go find that.
Okay, so yeah, we're going to see a lot of this type of news. You said that playing it safe, and you mentioned safe jobs. We considered them safe. We thought intelligence is something that's gonna get us through our life. You say safe is now the highest risk move. Can you explain?
I think the unfortunate reality is that many advisors and counselors and parents push people towards jobs that they thought of as safe. And the reason I say it's unfortunate isn't because of AI. If you're unfulfilled at work, there's a 2023 Gallup poll study that came out and said over 50% of people aren't actively engaged at work. And the number that qualifies engaged is like 23%. So if you're in these roles you don't really care that much about and you're not pushing yourself to improve, you're kind of a sitting duck anyway, like for these things. And I personally believe that all those parents were quite well intentioned and very worried about the economic stability and viability of their children's lives. But the truth of the matter is you only get one shot at this life. If you can find something that you're just insanely curious about, you're going to differentiate yourself so much greater than everyone that's around you. I think in many aspects of life, the economic part comes along if you're really great at what you do.
Can you give me 3 traits of a person who doesn't play it safe? What do they do daily?
Well, first of all, I think having the number one reason I wrote this book was to give people permission to chase a job they might not have thought was either possible or that they might have thought someone would try and talk them out of. And there's examples in the book of that. Danny Meyer, who's a famous restaurateur in New York and the man that started Shake Shack, his uncle told him you should go be a restaurateur, but he was on a path, poli-sci major, salesman, taking the LSAT, gonna go be a lawyer. And his father had some problems with economic trouble in businesses related to restaurants, and it pushed him away from it. And his uncle is the one that kind of brought him back. But his uncle told him, you know, all you do all weekend long is search for the best restaurants, and even journaled. Apparently since he was a kid, he journaled about restaurants, but he had never given himself the permission to think of it as a career and go after it. And the reason you're more protected is if you adore something, you're just constantly learning for free.
Yeah.
Like you're not spending, like the second principle in the book is hone your craft, and I talk about continuous learning. And many people, I think, unfortunately, learn in school and they think, oh, I'm done, now I'll go work. But the best are just always learning about what they do. And for the best that are hyper curious about that subject area, they gain energy in absorbing that new information. Whereas if you're forced to go to a class on something you don't like, you lose energy. It feels tedious, which is a great test as to whether you're tilting against the right thing or not.
So basically, don't listen to everyone around you.
I mean, there's extreme forms of this. I got to meet Rick Rubin. He said every single career decision he's made in his life, people around him told him not to do it, and they were all the best decision he possibly. I mean, you can take that to an extreme, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't just go, on quixotic pursuits. But I think if you become 100% convinced that you want to go try something, and I have tests in here for whether you're really passionate at that level, then yeah, I think you should go try. And I think you'll find you're more successful and more fulfilled.
And I like the continuous free learning. So you're learning not because you're required to, but because it's your passion.
And you're curious about it.
Yeah, and you can't stop yourself.
And you've met people I know that are like that. I think everyone's met people that are like that. Silicon Valley's full of a lot of people like that, especially about new technologies. So, you read an article about Clawbot and you just can't not, boot one and try and figure out what it does. And if you're that type of person, you're in the right lane.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're so fascinated by the subject that you have to know what's on the edge.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's interesting to think about the edge as a place that's safe from AI. So AI and large language models are recording like all the best practices that have been written down. But the stuff that's on the edge that's being discovered today is not in the models. If you're competing by being a person who has that knowledge in any field that hasn't been written down yet, you're out in front of what these models are capable of.
Yeah, and three, try new things.
Yes.
I feel like.
Yeah.
We talk about AI tools constantly, but honestly, most of us don't feel the real value until we see it applied to something very, very specific that changes everything. Something we actually do every day. So let's talk about outreach. If you're a creator, you need brand deals. If you're in sales, you need leads. If you're a founder, you need investors, partners, customers. And right now, done properly, LinkedIn outreach takes 10 to 15 hours a week. Every single week. This is exactly where AI changes the math. And Linked Helper is the concrete example I want to show you. Most tools are cloud-based. LinkedIn flags them very fast. This one is desktop native. It runs through a real browser, mimics actual human behavior. That's the only way to scale this safely in 2026. But what I find the most interesting is what happens when you connect it to an AI layer, NNN, Claude, and instead of sending the same message to 500 people, it reads each person's bio, writes something specific to them. That level of personalization at scale wasn't physically possible a year ago. $8.25 per month. You get scaled outreach. And instead of your team spending 10 hours a week on manual clicking, they're spending it on work that actually moves the needle and requires creativity. This is exactly what Bill was talking about. AI as a jetpack, not a replacement. You still build the relationships. You just don't waste the hours getting to them. Setup guide and templates are in the description with the free trial available. All right, let's get back to the interview with Bill. Since you've been investing for a while, I know you recently stopped, but what benchmark VC will consider not playing it safe when looking at a founder?
Well, actually, I think that the venture industry writ large has learned that you would never have a mindset of safety around choosing a founder. I think the best and the brightest are very independently minded. They think outside of the box naturally. I think if anyone feels, some of them are so dogmatically determined that they might come across as a bit crazy, actually.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not the only one that would say this. I think if you go study what venture capitalists have written, there's almost a search for that type of persona. And it goes back to like the Steve Jobs ad about the crazy ones, you know.
It feels like everyone right now should be adopting this crazy mindset to succeed in this world, because you're becoming the entrepreneur in your life, right?
I think,
Studying.
I think that's a great way of saying it. There is especially in certain fields, there is so much disruption coming from this new technology that if you don't take control of your own career path, then you're likely at risk. And I've often said, if you're a high agency individual who has confidence about driving their own career path, these tools are actually a jetpack. Like if you want to proactively learn, there's been no time in the history of the world where you can learn faster. And you know, it's AI, but it's also podcasts like the stuff you do. There's interviews all over YouTube. You can learn faster than ever before. But if you're this is part of why I react poorly to the AI anxiety, because that might freeze you. And then you're not, like the thing to do right now is to run as fast as you can.
Yeah, but I also wanted to dig deeper into anxiety, because you said something that gives me a lot of anxiety. Sometimes I scroll and I hear people, including you, say, we have this window of opportunity that's closing, so we should be working really, really hard right now to grasp this opportunity. Can you elaborate on that? How much time we have? How much should we be working?
Well, I don't think the window's necessarily closing. I just think that this tool kind of came at us so fast, and it's capable of so many different things, that it really behooves any individual to figure out what it's capable of in their industry, in their role. And once again, to be the person in the organization who knows the most about that and what's possible.
But do you think we might only have like a couple of years
before
I don't
AGI, believe in that. No,
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of these dystopian narratives. There's some interesting research you could go look up that the anxiety, this dystopian anxiety, is like 5 times higher in the U.S. than in China.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think part of the problem, and I don't fully understand the motivation, but some of, like Dario's the biggest doomer of all, and he's got the microphone all the time.
Yeah,
and it's kind of weird.
Always trending.
And I don't think it's healthy for all the reasons we already discussed.
Yeah.
So I wish that weren't happening.
But maybe also sometimes when I see those headlines, I'm like, maybe I should double down, work more. Why not? Like it's also, it has a positive angle to it,
yes,
right?
It could. It could spur people into action. It could. But it also could freeze them, which we already discussed.
Totally. And something else that you said, that unlearning what made you successful before is really important. How do you, so for me, for example, I'm a very hardworking person. I would say yes to every brand deal because I'm used to it.
Yeah.
And I realized that probably, but I'm not sure, probably the next stage of my growth will happen when I learn how to say no.
Yeah.
How do you decide, and how do you actually do it? How do you unlearn?
There's a great quote, strong opinions loosely held. And I really love that idea. So if you don't have strong opinions, it's very difficult to actually get out there and run every day and accomplish things. But don't view any of them as sacred. Like, don't think of anything as hard and fast and might never change. And I think if you develop the habit of being a continuous learner and know that there's a risk of this thing, then you probably are best prepared to know when to let go of something. I know that may not be definitive, but like I think awareness that it could be a problem is probably the most helpful thing possible.
Yeah, so when you start noticing it's actually in your way.
Yeah.
So in your book, you talked about 6 principles. Chase your curiosity. And this is where I paused, because I'm like, okay, I'm curious about so many things. There's this hype and that hype. I want to study this and do this.
Yeah.
How do you pick out curiosity that you can push for years and it becomes your career?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch. That chapter that you mentioned, Chase Your Curiosity, I went out and studied all the best practices in the field, and there's like 10 different exercises you can run to try, that I've borrowed from these other great people that have done the research. Hobbies are a big one. There's a lot of stories in the book of people that turned hobbies into careers and became very successful.
Yeah.
Like, if there's this thing that you're doing in your spare time at home. When I was an engineer for 2.5 years, I read this book, One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch, and I started studying stocks and trading stocks when I got home at night. I didn't say to myself, oh, maybe that's a sign, but it was, right? And I ended up going to work on Wall Street. And so look out for whatever it is that fascinates you. Don't feel stuck, or don't feel like you have to have an answer to the question. Some of these people didn't find their perfect fit until they're 30 or 40. And so get as many shots on goal. It's fine to take a job where you don't know if that's it. But wake up and ask yourself every year or so, is this it? Is this what I want to do the rest of my life? I had a mental exercise that I did in my first 2 stops in my career, where at a couple years in, I said, do I see myself doing this 30 years from now? And how do I feel about that? Just a kind of a reflection.
Yeah.
And in the first 2 cases, I got to a place where I immediately knew the answer was no.
I love that question.
And then you start looking for something else. Bezos had a similar thing he called the regret minimization framework, where he said, imagine your 80-year-old self giving you advice on helping with a career choice.
Yeah.
And they're similar in some ways. You're just reflecting over time.
Yeah. And when you studied those people who are not happy with their jobs, apparently it's 6 out of 10, right?
Yeah.
What do you think was the number one mistake that they made? Were they chasing money? I also write a newsletter where I go deeper on AI tools that I use, career strategies, and things I can't fit into a 60-minute podcast. It's free. Link is in the description.
I think so. I mean, chasing money or just doing we did a survey where we asked people if you could go back in time and start your career over again, would you do something different? And 6 out of 10 said yes. And then we would ask them, what did you use in the decision making? And it might be you're at college and a professor tells you, oh, you should go into this because you made an A on an accounting exam or something, or your parents. There's certain cultures where parents you got to be a doctor, you got to be a lawyer, and you end up in that path. There's a bunch of different ways you could end up in a pathway where it wasn't an exercise of you saying, what is it that I would love to spend my life doing?
Yeah.
And so it is I think many of these parents and counselors are very well intentioned. I don't think they're out to make a mistake. A lot of them are worried about the economic stability of the child.
100%.
As you become a parent, it's this thing that you can't really get out of your head.
So are there any jobs that you would name, top 3 jobs that are AI resistant and top 3 jobs that won't make it?
Well, the jobs that seem to me the earliest threats are ones where, so the large language model is really good at language. And so translation, paralegals, these.
I started with language. That was my whole career.
Yeah, I mean, those things are really, where you're just organizing text in a different way. Those are already, it's already happening.
Yeah.
I think some of the jobs that, I have this interesting theory where almost any job you could think of it as being an artisan. We all think of Michelangelo as an artisan, and we probably think of a great athlete as an artisan, but do you think of a lawyer that way, or do you think of, and I would say the best in those fields probably are. And so what is it they do? They understand nuance in their field quite a bit, and I think AI is not particularly good at nuance. A lot of people have a theory that I think is reasonable, that human relationships will matter way more. So do you have a strong peer network? Do you have a strong mentor network? Do you have a strong network in general of people who come to you or know you or what you're capable of? That I think that's super helpful.
Any other markets that you think are dying?
Dying. Well, I mean, coding is one where there's a lot of questions that are out there. And I think, once again, the thing about code is it's actually a stricter, more constrained version of language than language itself. Right?
So do you think we'll need less coders?
Certainly, if you were the person who was just grinding, writing out code, if you were the person that understood, structurally how one algorithm's better than the other, or how to reduce code to make something more efficient, those things I think will still be valuable. But I would go back to saying the best way to be a software engineer in an AI world is to be the one that knows how all the new AI tools work. To be the person in your org that's leaning into them, not out. Like if you're a farmer with a tractor and a drone thing and all this stuff, you're going to run over a farmer with a hoe and a donkey, right?
Totally.
You're just going to blow them away. And so you have to think that way about these tools. This one came at us fast, I admit, but you have to roll around in it.
Let's talk about the tools. You said at the beginning of our podcast, become the best AI-enabled version of yourself. Can you talk about the setup? Because we're all using ChatGPT for search. We use Nana Banana to generate images. We do basic stuff, right? We maybe plan our trips. What is the next step? What should people be doing to advance their setup?
Even like when I come on a podcast, I can say, I'm going to go see this person, do this podcast, and we're going to talk about the book. What questions should I anticipate? And it's like, this is the more you play with it, the more you think about what's possible to do. And I was at NYU yesterday, and the students were asking questions at the end, and like half the questions they ask, I'd be like, well, you could ask me that, but I'd probably put that into ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't think people don't realize how much you can lean on it, and that's where I think the more you roll around on it, the more you start to use it. And I've been invited to go give a TED Talk, so I have a new one on that. And
are you going to Vancouver in April?
Yeah,
I'll be there too.
Cool.
I'll watch your talk.
All right, and I'm like, you can research and prototype and ideate like simultaneously. I came up with a new theme last night, kicked off something this morning because I wanted it to find like 20 examples of this idea I had and wanted to talk about to make it better. Mm-hmm. And I haven't looked at the results yet, but I will later.
So you're basically living in Claude Project?
Yeah, I mean, those were ChatGPT, but you could, I mean, you're probably better to try them all.
What is something that you do with AI now that you've done manually before and now you can never do it manually?
Almost any information query whatsoever, like it just seems easier than looking it up. And even like compared to a Wikipedia search or something, like you can just get straight to the information versus like scrolling through this thing. Yeah. I haven't set up a Clawbot yet or started getting it to do agentic work on my behalf. I probably should. Mm-hmm. Part of raising my hand and stepping away from VC is because I grew tired of like that constant FOMO that's required to be successful.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a strong one. Let's talk about just in general for people who are building, since you were investing in them. Do you think software is dead?
I don't.
Why?
There are certain, and look, I think there are certain types of software that may be, if all the software did was reorient text or create an image or whatever, like it could be under threat. The other thing is, like, quite frankly, it's not really good at being a database, and it's not great at math yet. And there's new techniques where they're getting it to write code, but how many times have you done a query where there's an error? And once again, depending on the type of software, you wouldn't want it writing errors into your CRM.
Absolutely. Sometimes I think about the future where now I mostly talk to my Claude or ChatGPT. What if I just ask it to create an app for me to solve some particular problem and I don't need to install any apps? Yeah. Think about consumer apps, right? I don't know, like a fitness tracker, language learning, right? Exam prep, SAT was just released on Gemini. So I'm thinking like there's this whole market that's probably going to disappear.
That could be true. That could be right. But that's happened in the past. There used to be software companies that had massive market share that don't exist anymore. So, yeah.
How should entrepreneurs be thinking about what they're building?
Every great entrepreneur recognizes that new technology waves create a ton of opportunity. And one of the reasons Silicon Valley gets so excited when these waves happen, I mean, every single venture capitalist I'm sure that you talk to, all they want to talk about is AI, right? I think they've forgotten about the companies they invested in that aren't AI. That's all they want to talk about. And the reason they have so much attention to it is because the time when new companies step around and take market share for incumbents are on these transitions, and everyone knows it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to sound so redundant, but you got to get out there and play with it. Like I would warn all of your listeners that it's very hard right now to raise venture capital for non-AI plays. I like to separate whether you're judging that from the reality. Go back to this circle of influence thing. The reality is most venture capitalists won't take a meeting with a non-AI company right now. Now, you could decide I'm going to do it anyway. I think complaining about that's useless because it is the reality. You could decide, well, it'd be a great time to bootstrap one of those companies because VCs aren't paying attention. I think that's a reasonable response to that. But you need to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise you're going to get very disappointed when you go out and try and raise money.
Yeah. And you left the VC world, right at the, it's all hyped up right now, everything's happening. But I feel like a lot of people are like you, especially when we're talking about people who chose safer careers, right?
Yeah.
And now they don't know what to do and like erratic behaviors and everything. And I really like that you said in your book, you need to, and something you keep bringing up in this interview, you should be surrounding yourself with the right people, with the right news that you're consuming to stay calm and focused and motivated. Any tips on surrounding yourself with mentors?
Yes, well, mentors, and I have another chapter on peers, but let's take mentors first. I think most people, if you're in the mentor game, most people shoot too high. And they go try and get someone who's not going to say yes to spend 5 minutes with them. And I would really caution against that type of activity, and I would instead do two different things. Take advantage of all this incredible free information that's out there and build a list of what I would call aspirational mentors. So these are people you admire in your field and just study them. Like, create a Google Doc, I don't care what, and find the podcast they're on, find books, find YouTube interviews, ask AI about them, and just build like a digital profile of each one of them and be a fanboy the way someone might be of LeBron James, right? And I think that exercise will give you more confidence. It'll give you, it also tests whether this is the thing you're curious about or not. If that sounds tedious, what I just described, you're not in that.
I think it sounds really exciting. I'm thinking you can do this for your whole dream career, right?
Yes.
Or I'm trying to be this. Here are the people that are already doing this. Here's, I don't know, whatever my dream house.
Yeah, Danny Meyer did this. Like when he decided he was going to go be a restaurateur, he built these 10 profiles of these people, and I think that exercise of ruminating in that is super helpful. It gives you confidence that it's achievable. It helps. It's disinhibiting that this may be a tough way to go. And then on real mentors, just come down the ladder a couple rungs. If you're the first person that calls someone and asks them to be a mentor, and no one else has asked them that before, they're going to be flattered that you recognized who they were.
But how do you ask them? You're reach out to them and say hey, could you be my mentor? Or you ask a specific question?
Well, there's some nuance to that as well. So I wouldn't walk up to someone and say,
is too
will
broad.
you be my mentor?
Yeah.
That's a lot of weight. Yeah, I think you approach people with recognition of who they are and an authenticity. I wouldn't be overly programmed as you go in, and with a smaller ask to start the relationship. Hey, I'm working on this problem. There's these two paths. I'm sure you've thought about this before. Any advice on what I should do?
Yeah, and when you mentioned that a lot of people ask you things they could ask ChatGPT, I'm thinking now, before asking people to become your mentor and answer this question, create a project with all their knowledge base and ask that project.
You can have a virtual mentor.
Exactly.
You can tell AI to, you could dump a book, dump an interview, dump a transcript, and create a project around an individual. Yes,
yeah, I do that a lot. AI is my strategic partner 100%. Really, really helpful.
But let me also mention this separate chapter on peers, because this is my favorite chapter in the book, and it's a human connection that I think most people don't do. I would just heavily encourage anybody, whatever rung of the ladder you're on in your career journey, try and find 4 to 6 like-minded people on the same journey, hopefully outside your organization. They need to be trustworthy, they need to be comfortable sharing, and create a peer group. And once again, these tools, they're so available. Like, you can do a WhatsApp, or you could create a Google Space. If you're really, inspired, you could do a Slack or whatever, but you create one of these things where you all share ideas together, and it increases the surface area for learning. It increases your mentor opportunities, your network. You'll see more job possibilities through everybody. They'll be there for you when you're having a crappy day. Like, which is really important. Like, everyone has bad days. You might be in a job where you don't know if it's me or the company I'm in. Like, I'm not happy here, but is it because I don't love this career path, or is it because I don't love this company? If you have 5 other people that you talk to, they may help you figure that out.
Yeah, I did that as a YouTuber. Like, having other YouTubers just brainstorm ideas in your niche.
And there's a story
helpful.
in here about one YouTuber named Jimmy Donaldson that did this at the
He was the one who started all of this, and we just copied.
But he was doing the same thing.
Yeah, because I think he shared it at a conference, and I thought, oh my God, I should be doing this too.
Yes.
This is a very interesting time, right? And I have 2 kids, a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. I was raised by my Soviet parents telling me you have to study, study, and study. That's the only way to grow. That's the only way to build a sustainable life. So I was studying from 8:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Will this still apply in today's world to our kids, or should I be teaching them something completely different?
Well, I think the culture you came from is a little different than
it is.
what's true here. But I still think the thing that's happened in North America, which is a version of that, is it's become so hard to get into universities here that starting in the 6th grade, parents are worried about it. Jonathan Haidt calls it the resume arms race. You're worried about them getting into college, so you want your
I'm worried
college.
now, not 6th grade. Now,
okay.
4-year-old.
But so you
I'm
start
worried.
worrying about the college application, and here it's I think it might be better if they just studied 12 hours instead. Here you add in chess lessons, lacrosse lessons, like volunteering at the SPCA. You're like, and these kids are so scheduled. Like, and I what I fear is that they get to the end of the college and they're just burned out, like, because they've been told. Angela Duckworth says they've been taught to persevere, like we've trained
But isn't
them.
it good?
The area where it might not be good is that they never take a breath to explore and figure out what they want to do. It used to be in the U.S. college system, they wouldn't allow you to pick a major until the end of your sophomore year. Now, at many schools, you have to apply to the major as part of the application process. And so we're asking people to specialize early and earlier, and then maybe they never had a chance to really figure out what it is they enjoy. And they might have fallen into one of those pathways for random reasons, like we talked about before.
So what would be your advice to modern parents?
Take a deep, deep breath and create as much opportunity for exploration as possible for the kids. Just expose them to a lot of different things and try and get a sense of genuine interest on their part.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Love it. Okay, if someone's watching right now, they're in a job they don't love, but they're afraid to make a move. What is one thing they should do this week?
I think you can role play this new path you might go towards. And part of this I'm borrowing from a professor at Stanford, Dave Evans. He talks about like battle carding scenarios. So the same exercise we said where you could go study this person, you could say, okay, I'm going to be out of here within 6 months, and create a digital like role play of, okay, what am I going to go do? And you could do that for maybe 3 different directions, right? And roll around in it, like scenario plan, right? What is the first? And once again, an AI tool could help you do this. Okay, I would like to repop myself into this career within 6 months. What should the first week look like? It'll give you something.
Love it.
It'll spit something out, and you may disagree with that. You may reorganize it, but the thought process of going through what it might look like will help you versus just being frozen.
Yeah.
Right?
And the power is coming back to it every single week with new data. Like, I tried this, here's how it works.
And if you did the battle card of like 3 different ones, I think you'll start, as you fill in the details, you'll start to have a sense of which one you prefer. Whereas it may just be too abstract at the high level.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think it was very useful and very practical. And I encourage everyone to read your book. Can we show it?
Running Down a Dream.
Love it. I love the name.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this episode on the future of work, you're going to love my recent conversation with the CEO of LinkedIn. We went deep on the exact same topic. Link is right below. Check it out, and I'll see you in the next one. If you think that the secret to making more money is saying yes, you've been lied to. The world celebrates hustlers with jam-packed calendars and endless to-do lists. And I've done that for many, many years until last year. I asked myself, Marina, you're working on so many projects. Which one gives you the most value? What happens if you focus down on just one thing, on a bigger vision? What happens in a year? And I decided to focus on this podcast. Not the solo thing, because I've been doing this for a while. I decided to focus on interviews. My life has changed dramatically in the past 8 months. I got the most amazing guests. I've rebranded my Instagram. I got the most amazing manager. My revenue actually doubled. And now AI is teaching me to slow down even more. Because it's teaching me that a lot of things can be automated. It's teaching me that I don't have to do everything manually by myself. Actually, with kids growing up, you want to spend more and more time with them. Because when they grow up, you understand how limited that time is. They're already 5 and 4, and in 10 years, or even less, they will need me. So I decided that I'm gonna start slowing down, and I'm gonna talk about the principles that really worked for me in the past year. And I've been talking to these billionaires on this channel, and I realized that what really separates the top 1% is that the most profitable word in business for them isn't yes, it's a no. So let me break down for you exactly what I changed, what impact it made, and how you can use the same filters for explosive results. Saying no to busy work. There's such a change I'm experiencing right now where I'm offered to go to a country that I love, and they would pay for my business class flight, they would pay for my hotel, for a speaking engagement, and I would say no. Like 2 years ago, even a year ago, if you told me that, I'd be like, who does that? If you're offered free travel, you travel. If you're offered to speak at a conference for free, you do it for free. But at some stage, I realized that traveling, even for 3 or 4 days, takes away the whole week of my work because I travel, I adjust to time zones, I don't have jet lag anymore. But still, I feel more tired. I feel like my body's under some kind of stress. Yeah, I said no to 2 amazing offers this month. It was so hard. Oh my God. But because I'm focusing on my podcast and all my opportunities, they're here. I'm like, I just need to prioritize my bigger vision, my bigger goal. So every time when I get an offer now, if it's intuitively a no, and I'm trying to logically prove to myself that I have to say yes, I try to say no. And again, from a person with my circumstances where I grew up in this 1-bedroom in an apartment shared with other families, my mentality is like, you can't say no to things like this. You just can't. But I'm learning. I realize, and after talking to therapists and friends who are good at this, they told me, Marina, you're not that Marina anymore. Yes, saying yes to everything helped Marina from 20 years ago come to whoever she is right now. But that's it. You need to reinvent yourself to go even further. You can't apply the same strategies. And another thing that really helps me mentally, helps me say no, is what Blogilates told me. I have this fear of losing everything. And I feel like if, AI takes over in 2 years, I would be grateful to myself for saying yes to every project. And then I asked Blogilates what she thinks about that.
Even in the failing, we're going to figure something out because we have to. It's like you've made it this far. Like what's stopping you from figuring it out again and again and again?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
It actually gives you some confidence. You're like, yeah, I could totally do it. And that thought also helps me with the right mindset. Say no to administrative chaos. Scaling a business means a mountain of paperwork. I realized it's actually better to pay for a professional tool versus doing something yourself. So when I first came to Silicon Valley, I learned how much bookkeeping costs. I'm like, I can do it myself. And I did it myself for a year. And then I sent my QuickBooks to a CPA that we hired. And she was like, we need a bookkeeper and we need her as soon as possible. And she's going to charge more because we only have a few weeks to work with the mess you've created. And then they also noticed while doing this bookkeeping for us, they also noticed we didn't file a couple of forms, 83B. Of course, we automatically got this note from the IRS that we need to pay a fine. I think it was like a $40,000 fine, something crazy. I was like, that's the end for a startup because we only got 100K in funding, 25 of which went towards the program. So we only had like 75K plus some revenue that we were generating, but it wasn't a lot back then. So I thought that's the end of our
existent, but my CPA told me that we can actually appeal, and it's the first time, and the IRS actually forgave us. But like that moment, I learned that I'd rather pay for a professional service than do everything myself and mess up so many things. Because when it comes to legal stuff and compliance stuff in the US, everything is very complicated, but also at the same time, there are a lot of conditions that are favorable to you. And if you don't know about them, then you don't know about them. And you either get hit by a fine or you overpay. So working with a professional or using a professional software is always good. And that's exactly what doula does for businesses. They handle the tough stuff. LLC, taxes, compliance, bookkeeping, even annual reports for non-US founders. So instead of you spending 8 to 12 hours a month on filings, doula handles all compliance stress-free. And it's not just about reclaimed time. With doula taking care of admin stress, you protect your focus for what really moves the needle, strategic growth. If you're tired of drowning in paperwork and want to say yes to growth without burnout, check out the link in my description. Or use my code Silicon Valley Girl for a special offer. Number 3, saying no to false urgency. When I try to focus on my work, I try to put my phone somewhere or it's hard to find it. By the way, this thing, it's called bandolier. I'll leave a link below. This is so good because we're used to carrying our phone in our hands. If it's just hanging on your body, there's more friction to pick it up. When you have the strap on your phone, it makes it clunky, it makes sound. So it actually helped me reduce my screen time, which is super cool. And also gave me free hands for running after my kids when we're in a park. And still having my phone with me and not having it fall out of my jeans. That's the first method I'm removing this distraction of constantly picking up my phone. The second is an app called 1 Sec that asks you every time you open an app, for example, Instagram, it asks you, what was the purpose? What are you trying to do? And if it's just scrolling, you're going to be, oh my goodness, shut down the app. Or if you're posting and it's work, then you ask 1 Sec to give you 10 minutes to post, and then it's gonna cut you off. It's not like it's blocking apps. It is not, because for work, I need it, right? But it's just teaching you to be more mindful about what you're gonna do. Try it. So now I don't reply to every ping and message or notification just because I don't see them. I just use my computer for work. I take my phone only when it's time to pick up my phone and maybe post stories. University of California research shows it takes an average of 23 minutes to refocus after each interruption. And if you multiply that by dozens of daily notifications, deep work becomes impossible. The next thing, saying no to low quality things in general. I want everything that I do to have my brand on it, to have Silicon Valley Girl brand. If I show up to an event, I want to make sure I'm wearing something that me and my stylist worked on. If I'm making this video, I want to make sure I tell you most genuine stories. If I'm posting a short, I want to make sure it's a short that deserves attention. And you know how much I love AI? So this is totally not like me, but sometimes and very often we say no to automation. Remember the automation I was talking about on this channel? It was a cool concept to build and it was a cool concept to try, but what we realized that it is still getting less views than we anticipated. And human-made clips are so much better. Yes, the idea was to save time, but we also need the results. And the thing that I realized with all the AI tools that we're trying out, yes, we might be too early, but it's very important to try them out, see where they're at, because maybe we try them again in 2 months, and then there's another API integration for cutting short videos, and we're like, oh, and now it's working. And now we have the edge. Because I'm hearing so many stories here in Silicon Valley when somebody started working on an idea that was too novel for that time or maybe too dramatic, but then 10 years pass and that startup is on the top of the market because they were trying and testing earlier than others did, basically before it became the hype. So sometimes saying no to automations and different AI tools is exactly the move that compounds revenue and sometimes less is more. The next one is something that I've worked for a long, long time and I feel like I'm becoming more free every single day. I'm still working on it, but it is saying no to people pleasing. Harvard Business School found people who struggle to say no are 30% more likely to burn out and report lower job satisfaction. Saying no isn't selfish, it's actually self-respect. For years, I said yes to avoid conflict, to be nice to other people because people are gonna talk. I used to take criticism very close to my heart. I still do, but I'm learning a few practices. So practice number 1,
Get no's by yourself. I started reaching out to the most important people in the world. I just heard another no this morning. Like, oh, his calendar is full for fall. Thank you so much for your email. Okay. And then we got another no, and one person rescheduled 3 times, which is like, your ego is like enough. But then once you hear all of those people say no to you, like, if he can say no, why I can't say no? I can also start saying no to things that I just don't want to do. Yes, they might be important for my career, but I don't want to do them. I want to spend time with my kids and my new puppy. So start hearing no's, and it's going to be easier for you to say no. And second tip for handling this rejection or handling criticism for your work, get a nickname. So yes, you see me as Silicon Valley girl right now, but in real life, I'm Marina, a Russian-speaking Marina. Yes, we talk about technology and we talk about politics. I'm not showing everything on this channel. And when people judge Silicon Valley girl, they judge Silicon Valley girl. They judge my persona. And I can totally twist it. Okay, let's niche down, or let's become a better interviewer because people are saying you're asking dumb questions. Okay, maybe Silicon Valley girl is sometimes asking dumb questions. Why is she doing that? Maybe lack of preparation. Maybe she has to do more. Maybe she has to select her guests more carefully. Maybe she has to hire someone who will teach her to ask the right questions. Like, this is my product of work. It's not me. I am Lingua Marina on one channel. I'm Silicon Valley Girl on another channel. I am Marina Mogilko on my third channel. But in real life, I'm Marina. And I'm a slightly different person than my products of work. Really helps you not take criticism too seriously to your heart. Although, again, it's still going to hit you. You're either born ignorant or, yes, you're going to get some reaction. It's impossible to totally avoid it. Okay, another thing. Say no to low-value partnerships. Early on, I said yes to every collab. It felt exciting because, and when somebody tells you, can you do this for $10,000? You're like, yes. And when somebody offers you and says, can you do this for $5,000? And you're like, how can I say no to $5,000? If I call my mom now and tell her, Mom, I said no to this brand deal and this, I said no to flying me business class to this country and speaking at a conference. My mom would be like, you could have made it. You could have found time. How would you say no to $5,000? My mom is not watching this channel anyways. But I'm learning to say no. And I was talking to this smaller creator and she's like, I would never do a one-off deal. And she's like 10 times smaller, 20 times smaller. And I realize how much she values herself and her time and how I am just scattering myself all over the place just because I can't say no to money. So we've been saying a lot of no's in the past few months, but what we actually seen is double revenue because we're able to pitch bigger brands with bigger budgets and we're able to accommodate their needs for a lot of content, which is a good thing. But first, the sink in revenue, I was like, oh, how am I going to pay my team? How are we going to stay cash flow positive? A very interesting psychological transition. I think one of the most important updates I wanted to share in this video is that I'm no longer working on my healthy snack. That's the part of the strategy of saying no, unfortunately. And again, I'm truly passionate about healthy eating and I want our kids to grow up healthy in the US. And I actually became a venture partner at a fund that invests in physical products. And I realized that this is the angle that's more suitable for me. So this one was a harder no, especially because it felt like a no right from the start when we started listing out the things that I was supposed to do. And I had to say no earlier. And now we're shutting down the company, transferring trademarks, a lot of time and money. But lesson learned. Now it's going to be easier for me to say those no's. So if you're trying to learn how to say no, try to say a lot of yeses, but also setting the bar high for yourself that you're only delivering high quality output, then you'll be forced to say no. And this is such a good learning for me. The next one, saying no to burnout guilt. Rest isn't failure, although my mom doesn't think that. But I realized that the most productive ideas come to me when I'm hiking. Mike Krieger said the same. A lot of entrepreneurs say the same. They're like, I need some focus work, but then I need to walk. Then I need to talk to my friends. Then I need to play with my dog, play with my kids. Google's internal studies reveal employees who take regular breaks are 23% more creative and productive. And creativity is something that is really high value these days. I protect my weekends. I try to say no to almost everything that happens during the weekend. I try to not travel on the weekends. I try to not do any work on the weekends. Say no to others' success narratives. You don't have to post daily or chase every trend. I actually just spoke to RPN and he told me he started growing faster after he started posting less. Stanford research shows leaders who stick to their values, even when unpopular, build lasting success. So I started saying no to distractions like, oh, that creator launched a physical product. You know, I realized that's not for me. Oh, that creator interviews celebrities. You know, I realized that's not for me. I love to interview tech entrepreneurs. Or that creator did this, this, and that. I love their work, but it's not for me. Steve Jobs famously said, innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. Elon Musk credits much of his success to ruthless prioritization and saying no to distractions. These aren't just buzzwords. Successful businesses aren't built by doing more. And when I hear startup pitches that say, oh, we're going to do this, this, and that, and that, and that, I'm like, nah, just focus on one key feature. Focus on one key thing that makes you stand out. And this is exactly what my Instagram manager, Bessie Doan, told me. It's like, Marina, stop chasing trends. Yes, this creator is really good at putting her makeup on. And I had that stage, remember? I was like, yeah, I have to say no to this. The best things are built by doing fewer things better with relentless focus. So this week, the most productive thing you can do might be choosing one thing to stop. Let me know in the comments below, what's the thing you've recently stopped doing and how your life changed? Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And I feel really good when I talk to you about these things, these personal struggles and things that are going on in my life. Thank you so much for watching. And I'm really looking forward to reading your comments about things you said no to, because maybe they will inspire me to say no to something. Thank you so much and see you soon. Bye.